All right, this is ThemeForge. I've had a rebrand here. So the primary functionality here is that you have a conversation with AI, and then it translates your idea into a visual style or a theme for you to be able to build a landing page and build more from, so you can get started immediately. So the primary functionality is that conversational wizard with an AI that turns your ideas into a custom designed theme. In building a couple projects myself, I noticed that most other AI powered theme builders require the user to be able to prompt their way to a good design. And ThemeForge is more built for people who know the problem they're solving, but they aren't as savvy in design. People who know the story they're trying to tell, but they don't know what fonts to choose, what color palettes, what border radius, any of that stuff. So, without further ado, let's dive in. So, let's log in. So I'm going to show these features first, and we can talk more about the other Figma-esque features, but let's just get started. So, build a theme. I've got a couple pre-built on the side. I haven't tested these, but I've got answers to these questions, so I don't have to think of answers on the fly. Okay, so the first step is tell me about the name of your project and 1 to 2 sentences about what it is. So we've got a couple examples here if you want to use that, but I'm just going to paste this one in. Oh, you can't see it. Dreamcatcher, a workspace for creative thinkers to capture ideas, draft concepts, and explore inspiration without digital clutter. Okay, thinking. All right, step 2, we're on the vibe check. So this is where it wants just a couple keywords that describe the vibe of what you're trying to go for. So it gives some, again, these are based on the inputs. It's like based on your inputs, I'd think you want calm, natural, and organic, whimsical, playful, and inspiring, or rustic, cozy, and thoughtful. And then it has some default fallback options. I'm going to do minimalist and calm, and let's pick another one, cozy. You can do as many as you want there. And then this step 3 is colors. So it shows you couple color palettes. So let's pick one. I kind of like this soft neutrals or muted greens. Let's do muted greens. Okay, and then step 4 is these design inspirations. You can choose some other sites that inspire you. Apple.com. I haven't been to Apple.com in a minute. Let's see what it looks like. It's dark mode, but yeah, it looks good. Let's see if that influences it. All right, to what degree? And then the step 5 is just anything you forgot. Any other constraints, anything else. But if you say done, it'll start generating. Let's wait here, see how long it takes. Woo! Here we go. I think since we went with minimalist, is that one of our words? Yeah, when you do minimalist, there's like a couple optional sections that it can show. But the basic idea is this landing page doesn't change in terms of like the layout a lot. A little bit does, but it's essentially the same layout, but it'll change the fonts. I added like 50 fonts. It'll change the colors of things. It'll change the border radius, and then it outputs this theme specs. So it gives you the vibe and style, your title, and kind of its description of what it thinks would happen, and then a color palette for you, and then a typography for you. So the user can take this and start building from there. You know, they could build, it's really meant to help you build a landing page. So if you're like capturing emails or starting to prepare for marketing, that kind of thing. So yeah, let's test another one. Let's see another one. I got a second example in here. So let's do build a theme again. Starts over. This one, console.log, a developer playground. I need to expand this input bar. Still a lot of work. I honestly wanted to have this be like a wizard, a true wizard, like a step-by-step, and I was trying to get that over the finish line, but a little bit time constrained, and so there are definitely improvements I want to make to this UX. It's pretty clunky right now. But here, let's go. Console.log, a developer playground where you can experiment with APIs, code snippets, and workflows in real time, built for tinkerers and builders. Okay. Now the vibe here, we're going to go with hackery, energetic, and cyberpunk. And let's see the colors. This is pretty cyberpunky. Again, some like formatting I could adjust here. It's a little bit clunky. Let's do neon glow. Let's do no other. We'll do skip on this one. No other inspirations. And then done. Let's see it generate this one. I was going to say, it's the exact same. So it output it right on top. So you want to make sure you're zoomed in a different spot. I should have changed where I was better. But you can see it looks, I feel like it fits the theme a little better. Could be improved here with that button contrast. I tried to add some rules for that, but clearly not well enough. But yeah, so and then it'll output this theme spec, and you can just copy that and get going. So it's really to help you if you have kind of creative roadblock, and I know I want these things, but I don't know. I want to tell the story, but I don't know what it should look like. It can just help you kind of like, oh yeah, that's kind of what I want, but let's try making it a little darker. And I had some refinement logic where you could like access. This would be easier with the wizard UI. That's not as like terminal based as this, but I had some like refinement where you could be like, okay, build that again, but let's just change the color palette, or build that again, but let's just change the vibe. So I do want to have a place where you can just pick one of the variables and edit it and then have it regenerate. I think that'd be cool. But that's essentially the core value proposition, the pain point it's solving right there. And here's some additional features I've added, since the MVP. We've got all this agentic stuff. I've got, let's move all this so that I can, I'm curious how many objects that is actually. Well, you can't tell. It'd have to be the same, yeah. Since it gives them names, you can't tell, but let's refresh real quick. There's something floating behind my cursor. Okay. Let's test a little bit of this functionality just to show you that it's also a little Figma editor, because you can go in here and mess around with it. So I got alignment. That was a big thing that I added. Let's do the simple commands. So like create 9 squares in a 3x3 at 0, 0. Nice. Technically at 0, 0. How about, let's try centered. Centered at origin. Hey, nice. That's not quite it. Close. It's close. I created a public and a private canvas. So you start in the private. Everyone gets one private and one public. You are able to share the private one, and you can revoke it as well. So if you want other people to check it out, you can share it, and then there can be multiple. Let's test that real quick. Why is that not incognito? Let's paste that link. Let me log in off screen real quick. Oh. Can't type. Okay, two-step verification. Why? Because I'm safe, that's why. Okay. So yeah, you can see multiple users on here. Bada bing. Yeah, that's still working. That's good. But yeah, and then let's see what happens if I revoke. Sharing enabled, and then I refresh on the right. It'll show this. Oh, you can't see it. There it is. Canvas is private and not currently shared. So then it'll redirect you back to your private, and I'm kicked out as the other user. It should take 30 seconds, and that'll go away, but let's do a little live test of that. I added also these commenting system, so you can double click. You can press C. Whoops, press C to create a comment. Test. Reply. Haha! The 30-second timeout is working. But yeah, you can create these comment threads. You can delete individual comments. You can resolve threads. You can reply back. You can delete the threads. So pretty cool commenting. You can move them around. Yeah, these alignment snapping, pretty good system. Can help with this kind of stuff. You can kind of like, because I figure if you start with this, you could be like, okay, but let's move all this stuff a little lower. Whoops, forgot to grab the square. So you can like readjust stuff. It allows you to edit, not just get these like static things, but you can move them around and do stuff with them. There's also these alignments like you can do on the right. You can distribute stuff. Bada bing. You can align on the vertical. Yeah. Global coordinates, Shift Command C. You can see here. I also added this. Yeah, the global origin axes. 50 fonts so that it could do all this typography stuff. So if I just grab all this, there's a bunch of new fonts in here. They're all Google based, so it shouldn't hurt the load time too much. But yeah. Big performance boost. I did a lot of rendering cycle and event listener cleanup. I was even like 100 objects, it would really lag. And so I was like, if people are going to be building this, that's like 200 objects right there. So I had to fix that, and doing much better. And then I created the homepage that I saw. So yeah, still pretty much the same architecture, still React, Firebase on the back end, and I almost migrated over to a Firestore and real-time database kind of hybrid situation, but I was able to figure out with session storage is the permanent layer, or the persistent layer, not permanent. So session storage is keeping track of the coordinates of where anything is that's static, and it uses the updated at time to compare if something's changed in the real-time database, and if it has, then it'll pull from there, and then once it gets that data, it keeps it in session storage, so it's not querying from the real-time database in like 500 WebSocket, it's just parsing through one JSON, and it just got really slow having all that data go through a real-time database, so I had to make some adjustments. So yeah, that's pretty much it. ThemeForge, try it out. Let me know what you think. Experiment. Have fun.